Welcome, everyone, to our seventh and final postseason pint of the season. Rye, I'm at a loss for words right now, buddy. Listen, all day today I was a ball of nerves and I didn't know what to think or feel or whatever. And I had a million different scenarios play out in my head about how tonight would go. And I didn't envision that. That was about as disappointing as you can get.
Oh, man. I got to get ready for this episode. Hold on.
I've already opened mine. I opened mine before we even started recording. I couldn't wait.
Yeah, that's all the emotion of another Game 7 loss. Like, whoa.
I've got a bunch of notes here from the game, like just like who scored the goals and all that stuff. I don't want to talk about it. Like, anyone who's listening to us knows what happened. I want to get into why it happened, and I feel like we're going to spend a lot of time talking about the coaching and maybe some other things. So let's just, before we get into that, because it's going to be a while, let's talk a little bit about some of the performances tonight. Unfortunately, I fear, Ryan, that after what many people thought was like a Vezina contending season and playing 6 incredible games in this series, all people are going to remember is the shaky outing that Freddie Anderson had tonight in Game 7. 2 of those Boston goals should not have gone in. I'm sorry. And all his detractors who say he's not a big game goalie and he's shaky in the big games all got fresh ammo tonight. What did you think of the performance of Freddie Anderson?
Yeah, you know what? I can excuse the first goal. Like, it was just kind of a breakdown. It was a bad goal, but like, you just got to move past it. It's one goal. And then the second goal was just a brutal giveaway, and he really had no shot, I thought. But man, that third goal, like, you cannot give that up early in the third period when your team had all the momentum in the second period and was pressing and was only a goal behind, and you give up a shot from that dot, like, to a third liner. Like, it's just, that is just such a killer, man. And once that went in, it was over. And he played so well this series, but man, that goal cannot go in. I'm not pinning the loss on him at all.
No,
well,
it's not totally his fault.
There's blame to go around, but
it was definitely his weakest game of the series. It was the first time this series that I thought Tuukka Rask outplayed him.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was the bottom line. Tuukka Rask outplayed him. That's simple as that. And that last goal, it's blatantly obvious to anyone who watches hockey that goal is just a killer, and you cannot let that in early in the third period when you're trying to come back. Like, it's just a killer.
All right, let's move on. I want to single some guys out here. Jake Gardiner, the second Bruins goal.
Throwing the puck away.
Yeah, just
throwing. Oh, here's a little pressure. Here you go. Oh, here you go. Scores.
Yeah,
like,
we just watched Jake Gardner's last game as a Leaf.
Yes, that is correct.
And you know what? Based on what I saw tonight and what happened last year in Game 7, and the fact that because Nazem went and got himself suspended because he was the only remaining guy from the 13 team, I think it is appropriate that Jake Gardiner goes elsewhere and has a fresh start somewhere else. You could see the fear all over him tonight during the whole game. He just looked petrified every single time he was out there. I thought he brought Travis Dermott down. I thought Dermott didn't play well because he's compensating for his partner, who's just a dumpster fire. And yeah, I honestly, Rye, I think that's Jake Gardiner's final game as a Leaf.
Yeah, and couldn't end in a more Jake Gardiner way. A bad giveaway in Game 7 in TD Garden Arena, and that's 0 for 3 for Jakey in Game 7s against the Bruins, being one of the only few gentlemen who was on that first go-around in 2013.
I'm going to skip over the fourth line right now. I thought the fourth line actually wasn't bad.
I actually thought Tyler Ennis was one of the best players for the Leafs all night. I thought he was the only guy who was creating offense and creating for himself.
The fourth line's going to come up later in this conversation with respect to Mr. Babcock. So let's get right to the third line.
Don't even come up with it. They're awful, man. I call them the allergy line because they're allergic to offense. Yeah. I've never seen that line is just every time that line was on the ice, man. It's just like nothing is going to happen.
All three of them are horrendous tonight. All three of them. Don't at me, William Nylander lovers. He was awful tonight too. It's only fitting.
He's garbage.
His season ended with a giveaway, which led to the empty net goal for the Bruins. They were awful. They were awful.
Yeah, they're just not good enough. Can't create anything. Got outplayed by the Bruins bottom six, whatever line they got matched up against. Got outplayed. I've never seen for three guys who've all, like, Connor Brown's had 1 year of scoring, and Marlowe's had a whole career of scoring, and Nylander is a skilled hockey player, and you put those three guys together, and it amounts to zero offense. Like, just zero. Just nothing. No shots, no pressure, no time in the offensive zone. And even if they do spend time in the offensive zone, there's no danger towards the Bruins net or any net in that fact. Like, they're just... I'd never want to see those three players on the same line again. If they all come back next year, who knows? But dude, that line, I'm so sick of that line, and they were awful.
I don't want to dive too much into this because we're like, obviously we're kind of running down things, and we'll do an hour-long post-mortem on the whole season later in the week. But I don't know where you go with William Nylander from here, Ryan. Like, he had an abysmal season. Like, there isn't one moment I can look back. Maybe the goal he got against Montreal during the regular season. There's no moment that I can look back and think that was a positive, bright spot for William Nylander. It was a dark, awful season, and William Nylander's fans are going to say, well, bring him back next year, let him have a fresh start, let him be in camp. And, like, I can see that, and maybe there's an argument to be made for that. But this was a horrendous season for William Nylander.
Yeah, dude, it was awful. And I'm looking up at Speckles in the press box too, who decided to hand an absolute jamoke a $7 million deal for not even an impressive resume. Like, oh boy, that I'm sure Brendan Shanahan or Kyle Dubas, one of them in their minds are going, I maybe would like to have that one back, because having Nylander sit out the entire year and sit out the series would have made no difference to the result, in my opinion. Like, just terrible. I know there's some Nylander fans, but dude, they're dwindling. Most people I talk to now, they can't stand the guy. He can't do anything. Like, everyone texted, like, a million people texted me tonight. Not one person was sticking up for him. All of them were like, he's garbage. Get him off the ice. He's terrible.
All right, the Matthews line. I thought Matthews was pretty good tonight. I thought he had his game going. His two wingers, I thought Janssen was okay. Kasperi Kapanen was invisible. Invisible.
Yeah, they just couldn't create any offense.
Every time 34. 34 has had, like, 3 big games in a row. So every time he touched the puck tonight, he was swarmed by black sweaters, and his wingers didn't help him out. And that was that. You're right. They couldn't generate any offense.
Yeah, like Austin Matthews I'll give the guy credit. He erased any doubt that people had about him in a playoff series in this series. So you got to give him a lot of credit for that. He created a little bit for himself tonight, but couldn't find the back of the net. And I find the other two, it's a lot of skating, but just not a lot of danger. Like that's the whole theme around this hockey team. It's a lot of skating and a lot of cute passes, but not a lot of danger towards the Bruins net. Like the Leafs, for most of the game, were out shooting the Bruins. I'm not sure what the final total was, but the difference between the high danger chances for the Bruins and the Leafs, to me, isn't even close. Like the Boston Bruins, every time they get an opportunity in the offensive zone, it's a dangerous opportunity to score. And the Leafs have a hard time getting the puck to the net sometimes. Like it's just, I don't know if the Bruins do a good job of just collapsing and not letting shots through, and the Leafs just don't. But dude, a lot of the Leafs lines just struggle at getting a high danger chance against them.
And that brings us to the first line. Johnny T got a goal tonight. Thought he was a little better tonight. Took that ridiculous punch in the side of the head as Zdeno Chara. That is like, if Nazem Kadri's going to get suspended, then Chara should be suspended too for that. That was a joke. But that aside, Mitch Marner, man, like nowhere to be found again tonight. Like, and you know, he played really well at the beginning of this series, and then he fizzled out, and he was like a non-factor.
He got shut down.
Yeah, he's a non-factor again tonight. Yeah, they shut him down. It was a non-factor again tonight, and it's like,
he had one good shooting opportunity tonight, and he followed it up with like a rebound chance. But other than that, like just a lot of dipsy doodling and no high danger chances towards the net.
Just
a lot of skating and a lot of passing.
I can't believe it, Ryan. I can't believe they lost Game 7 in Boston again. And you know what? People are going to look at this and be like, oh, well, like, you know, the last few times it's been like an in-game collapse. This is still a collapse. They had a chance to wrap this series up on Sunday.
This is worse to me.
Yeah.
This is worse because the other two times you almost felt lucky to be in that series. Like they got dominated those first two times around, and they somehow made it to Game 7, and it almost like the I hate saying hockey gods, but it's like they blew it in those third periods because they just weren't meant to win. This year, they played very well throughout this series, and they were up 3-2 in their home barn. You've already taken 2 wins on the road in TD Garden, and you had a chance to finish it off at home, and you didn't. And then you go to Game 7, and to me, you're not winning in that building 3 times. Like, it's just not. That's why I didn't think they were going to win tonight. You've already took your 2 out of that building. You had your chance to win at home. You didn't. You lose in Game 7. And to me, it frustrates me more this year because I thought this is the best series they've played against them. And they had an opportunity to win twice. They had them on the ropes, and they just couldn't do it. And to me, it's just so disappointing. Like, it's just.
Yeah, I don't even know what to think right now, buddy. I don't even know what to say. I can tell you what Twitter's saying, and that is everybody wants Mike Babcock's head on a silver platter for his once again. We're a broken record. We've talked about this all year. His deployment of the roster, rolling 4 lines virtually all night. And
yeah, but you know what my counter to that is, though, is Bruce Cassidy's rolling his lines too, man. Like, you know, like I know he moved Pasternak off the first line, moved to the second line, and don't give me the David Backes thing. Like that's inconsequential. It doesn't matter. But to me, it's like Bruce Cassidy's not double shifting guys. Like Bruce Cassidy was rolling his lines all series too. Like they just got outplayed tonight, and they got outplayed. And they lost. Ryan, the coaching is a problem, though, Ryan. It is. I'm sorry. The coaching is an absolute problem. You know what else is a problem? Handing a $7 million contract to a Jamoke.
No, I know.
That's also a problem.
I know, Ryan, but like we talked about it last episode, putting Patrick Marleau out there as much as he is wrong. It's just wrong. And like the thing I think that pisses people off is you're trailing in the game. You need to score goals. Why is Frederic Gauthier on the ice? Like listen, I thought the fourth line played pretty good tonight, but they're not going to score you any goals. That line is not going to score you a goal, okay? Matthews and Tavares and Marner and those guys, and if Marner's not going, keep shoving them out there. Like, Ryan, the coaching is an absolute problem.
But what pisses me off tonight is the Bruins' fourth line and third line scored all night.
Yeah, and there's so again, and listen, it's not totally on the fact that William Nylander's a bum is not Mike Babcock's fault.
The whole roster is just flawed, man. I know he deploys it the wrong way, and he deserves all the blame, and he has to take responsibility for not putting his franchise player on the ice as much as he's supposed to. Like, I get that. That I totally understand, but to me, at the end of the day, this hockey team is just flawed in so many ways that they have a lot of work to do. And I don't care if you have Scotty Bowman on the bench, man. Like that lineup is just not going to do it. It's just the defense is soft, it's weak, it's slow. The forwards are soft, and they don't have the horses, man. Like, what are you going to do? Play two lines all game? Like, I get the third period, but like, it's just I understand. Like, I don't know. I'm kind of caught in the middle here because I get pissed off when Marlowe's on the ice and in important times, but this series in hockey is more about, like, it's a whole series, it's a whole game, it's a whole 60 minutes. It's not just one period, you know? Like, this roster is flawed from the defense to the bottom six to the amount of players that are in the same kind of molded out of the same clay, all skilled hockey players. Like, we get the whole toughness thing, but I don't know. I'm so torn in the middle right now. Like,
I agree with you that the roster is flawed, and one of the positives I think that's going to come out of this is it forces, like, if the Leafs had won tonight and gone into the second round, everything would have been hunky-dory, and these reoccurring problems would have been back next year. And now it forces the Leafs to take a good long look at this. Like, they're going to take a good long look. Like I said, Jake Gardiner is gone. He's gone. And you got to take a look at guys like Patrick Marleau. Like, they have to sit down with Patrick Marleau and say, what are we going to do with you? Like, they can't have him come back. They're going to have to sit down with Connor Brown and be like, you were horrendous from the drop of the puck this season. What are we going to do with you? Like, I think the Leafs, here's the thing about the Leafs. I think the core is intact and in place. Like, Matthews stepped up. Marner had a monster year. Johnny T got 47 goals. Riley should have been a Norris candidate, even though he wasn't. Like, these are good pieces, and they have these pieces that they can build. Hyman proved that he's a valuable part of the core. First liner this year. Like, he proved all this stuff. It's the surrounding bit pieces that need to be taken out and replaced. That is the problem. And again, their lack of depth on the blue line hurt them at times in this series. Although I thought Zaitsev played better this series than he played all year, and Muzzin played really well. But they need to get better on the blue line. And,
yeah, they do. It's that go. That's literally just start there, man.
And then you got it. It forces you to take a look at guys. Forces you to take a look at guys like Kapanen and Janssen. It's like, are we going to pay these guys when, like, again,
Please, no.
Well, no, but it's true, though.
No.
But it's like, we've joked about that on the show, about how at the deadline, these guys were untouchables. And it's like, you look at it now, and you're kind of like, is Kasperi Kapanen... And honestly, I'm eating a bit of crow on Kasperi Kapanen. Like, you can check the tape on this show. I glowed about Kapanen all the way through the regular season. And now I'm kind of like, is this guy really an untouchable? Like, is this guy somebody who I want to hold on to and not maybe go and try it and get another? Like, and again, I hate to sound like an old school hockey fan here, but they also got too many of the same player. And another thing you got to look at too is Nazem Kadri. Like, Nazem Kadri, a huge reason why that third line stunk is because their regular center was not in the middle, and it's because Nazem Kadri couldn't control his temper. And so you got to look and say, dude, this is 2 years in a row where you have handcuffed our team. And I know that he's a good player, and the thing that's extra appealing about Kadri is he's on a really good contract, but it's just 2 years in a row now that you've cost us against the Boston Bruins. Like, what are we going to do?
That's a good point. Like, you almost forget that Kadri was even a part of this team. Like, we've been harping about that third line, and they stink. But you're right. They haven't had their center. They've had William Nylander playing center.
Yeah, we're sitting here ripping on the third line, and it's like Nazem Kadri screwed this team over again.
Yeah, you're right. Honestly, it just kind of slips your mind.
Yeah, so it's like,
because
what do we?
He's so far out of sight that you don't even remember. it's just like boiling down. Like everyone's going to want to throw their blame on someone 100%, but it's just so many little things that the GM's done, the coach has done, the bad goal from Freddie. Like,
well, here's my initial things that I want to say. And like I said, we're going to come back in a couple of days and we're going to reassess and we're going to take some time to get over this and we're going to like come at it with like a little less emotion. But just right now, sitting here in the heat of it all, I think they've got to look, like I said, I think the core is in place. I think you've got to look at all the pieces surrounding the core. William Nylander is not a part of that core to me. I'm sorry, he's not. As the salary cap goes up, that contract is going to get more and more appealing to other teams. So he's a guy that you could potentially look to move, especially if you got to pay Marner all this money. They got to address their blue line. Coming back next year without addressing their blue line, because you got to think Gardner walks. So if you don't address the blue line, it's the same top four we just watched. Or Hainsey. Is this the last year on Hainsey's deal?
I think so.
Yeah, it is. Okay,
Sure.
I don't see Dubas re-signing Hainsey no matter how badly Babcock screams for him to re-sign him. I don't see that happening. So you got to think Gardner's gone and Rosen draws in. And then
which is scary, man.
Yeah.
Like that's like I know we hate Jake Gardner and like we don't. A lot of people don't like Ron Hainsey, but it's like what he's gonna plop Callie Rosen in there? Like, come on, the guy's a borderline like he's an AHLer. Like it's like they have a lot of work to do, man. Like especially on that. Like I would take all your attention and focus it all on that blue line. Like try as hard as you can to land some decent hockey players back there, because plopping guys from the Marlies into that top six with Zaitsev, Riley, Dermott, like that's worse. It's almost worse, man. Like it's a lot of work they're gonna have to do.
There's also the special teams disaster.
Oh, it's awful, man. Like even though tonight they finally did what I suggested all season. They finally did it in the last game of the year. They switched Marner and Matthews, and still it made no difference. They can't even, like, you said something perfect last episode, how the Bruins penalty kill is just so much more aggressive. And you're so right. Like, you just watch them. Like, the Leafs can't even get a setup because they got two guys on them constantly. It's hard to make a pass in the offensive zone. The Leafs weren't on a penalty kill tonight, and they still lost. But like, their power play, man, like it's a problem too. Like they can't set up, they can't score. Like especially I know they're top 10 in the regular season, but like their power play in this series was terrible, and that's a big difference.
And the last thing I want to make is I do think that I've said it all year that a discussion needs to be had with Mike Babcock. And I think a discussion needs to be had without Mike Babcock on if he's the right guy to coach this team.
Well, where I stand on that is as long as Kyle Dubas is the general manager of this hockey team, it's not going to work. Like, it's just, to me, it's just plain and simple now. Like, these two cannot work together. Like,
well, they have totally different philosophies.
Apparently,
Mike Babcock was just asked in the post-game press conference about Patty Marleau being on the ice, and he said, we felt Patty should be out there.
Like, oh, man. Like, Mike, man, like, he's... like you respect Mike Babcock and he's a great coach, but like the man is just so stubborn, and I get why everyone, like, I'm with you. Like you, like it's ridiculous. Like you don't understand what goes through his head sometimes. Like you just literally are just shaking your head.
That's the quote. We felt Pat should be out there.
Like Patrick Marleau is just like, I didn't see him. He didn't get one scoring chance his entire series. I don't care what analytics say. Oh, he had good shot attempts. No, he didn't. I didn't see one dangerous scoring chance from Patrick Marleau all series long. And it's just, this is the part why, this is why people want Babcock's head. And And, like, I hate laying the blame all on one person, but, man, like, it's so,
right.
like,
He's doing it to himself. It's like,
I know, you just want to sit down with him and be like, what do you think? Like, why do you do this?
No,
like,
Ryan, he's so set in his ways. We talk about his Mike Babcock's rule book all the time on this show. He's so set in his ways. He will not change. He does not think like new age. There's no sort of new ideas, no concepts. He absolutely refuses to load up a line. He won't do it. He's a guy who's stubborn, extremely set in his ways. And it's at the point now where if he does eventually get fired, he wants, like, look in the mirror, dude. Like, look in the mirror. Like,
well, he'll get hired in 2 seconds.
Okay, fine.
Like,
well, then
I don't think he's collected his money.
Yeah, then he can go coach somewhere else and play their veterans.
Like, he's got nothing. He's got nothing to worry about. He gets canned. He's hired the next day. He's made his dough.
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. I think it's become clear to me that this Dubas and Babcock pairing is not going to work. Kyle Dubas and his management group and their philosophies are too new school and new age for this old school, I love my veterans, play it the right way, good pro type coach.
Yeah, and as much as Mike Babcock drives you crazy, but like you said at the other episode, this isn't the Sioux Greyhounds, Kyle. Like, I don't care if Scotty frickin' Bowman was behind the bench for this hockey team. They may have won this round, but they aren't winning anything with the roster they have right now. And
listen,
I know you got to deploy them a little bit better, but dude, you got to make some serious changes, bro. Like, you can't be going out looking for, we're looking for all the skill and possession and all these. Like, dude, you got to wake up. Like, Brendan Shanahan has got to see, like, he's got to step in and be like, dude, you need to get some, like, better mix of dudes in here. Like, I think it's on both of them, to be honest with you.
Oh, no.
But what Mike does is, and what Mike does is just right in front of your face, though, when you're watching the game. Like, you're just...
Ryan, what Mike does is Game 7, you're trailing the entire game, and Austin Matthews plays 18-48. There's one word for that. There's one word for that, and it's unacceptable. Unacceptable.
And, like, he's not glued to his wingers either. No. Like, you don't have to make his ice time suffer because...
It's the same thing with Nylander. Like, it's the same thing with that line. Why can't Trevor Moore play a shift up there? Why can't Ennis play a shift up there? Why? Why does it always have to be those three guys going over the boards? Why? So, you're right. That is why everybody wants his head, and they need to sit down and come to an agreement. And honestly, Ryan, can I be honest? Do I think Mike Babcock is going to be fired this offseason? No.
Yeah, me either.
Will it shock me? Also, no, because I think, like I said, there's going to have to be a meeting of the three top guys, and they're going to have to hash this out. And if at the end they just decide it's not a fit, because let me tell you, Dubas is Shanny's guy. It ain't Babcock. I know Shanny brought Babcock in here first, but Dubas is Shanny's guy. Brandon Shanahan is going to live and die with Kyle Dubas.
Yep.
So that's the only way I see this Babcock not being back here next year is if the three of them all mutually decide, okay, this isn't working, this isn't a fit, we got to move on here.
And, like, there's a couple I know we've been talking about the coach and the GM, but there's a couple players that got to look at themselves in the face, too, next time they're in a playoff series. Like, I know John Tavares got his goal tonight, but, like, he's got to be better.
Yeah.
Mitch Marner's got to be better.
Oh, yep, 100%.
Morgan Riley's got to be better. Like,
anyway.
I know it would help if Riley had a better, like a guy he could play with, but, like, some of those guys have also got, like, I know they're still young, though. Like, they're still... The good thing about this core is they're all still young, like they're going to have more chances. They're always going to be in a playoff hunt. So those guys have some time to mature and like get their experience and whatever, but get ready, man. Cause it's just going to be a nonstop Mike Babcock bashing for the next week.
All summer, Ryan, all summer. There's going to be a segment of the fan base that is going to be really, really upset if he is there to start training camp next year, which he likely will be.
And then, like, but then, yeah, I don't even want to get that far right now.
Yeah,
it's just going to be, I don't think, I'm with you. I don't think he's going to get fired.
I don't think he is either.
And, if he does get fired, there's Sheldon Keefe as the Toronto Maple Leaf head coach.
Well, that's another thing in all
2
this,
days
Ryan, because
later.
guess who Kyle Dubas's guy is? He's coaching the Marlies right now, and they just paid him a bunch of money so he wouldn't leave, because guess what? The Toronto Marlies lost their Toronto Marlies top defenseman just sat in the press box for 7 games with the Leafs, and the Marlies are in the playoffs winning games. So he's going to some other team is going to come knocking on his door, and
But
Dubas
that doesn't
knows
mean,
that.
like, there was once a Dallas Eakins, like,
Oh, no, I agree. Listen, I'm not saying
get too excited.
I'm not saying Sheldon Keefe's the be-all, end-all. I'm saying the point I'm making is they paid him all that money to keep him here for a reason. And reason is because Dubas wants him here, because some of these other teams are going to come sniffing around if...
Yeah, for sure. It's just... I need almost like we'll come back in a couple days and kind of rehash everything once like my head is just spinning.
How do you feel if you're John Tavares? You leave the New York Islanders and you're donezo in the first round, and they're on their way to the second round after sweeping the Penguins.
You know what? I actually feel so bad for him. Like I put the hockey aside for a second. Like if you were just to put yourself in his shoes as a human being, like you got to have some unbelievable self-doubt going through your head. Like, just, you leave a team that was brutal forever, and then they went around, they're going on. You come to a team that you thought was going to be stacked, and you'd have chances for Stanley Cups, and you get dusted in the first round, and you can replace John Tavares or you can replace Tyler Bozak with John Tavares, and it's still the same result at the end of the day. Like, it's still the same result no matter. And now it's like, now you're going into an off season where you got 2 guys at $11.5 million, and you got another guy who's going to be there. And it's like, man, like it's going to be tough sledding,
It's going to be
man.
an interesting off season. That's for sure. At least we got the Raptors, Ryan, who took care of business tonight against the Orlando Magic and are on to the Final Four in the East. So let's go Raptors.
Yeah, let's go Raptors. So, man, my head is just spinning. I don't even know. I'm going to have to listen to this episode back. I don't even know if I made sense half the time. Like, just...
I want to say thanks to everybody for joining us on these postseason pints. They were a lot of fun, Ryan. We pumped out a lot of shows over the last couple weeks. Like we're gonna take a day or two. I want to take a few days and see how everything plays out in the media with locker clean out and stuff. And then we'll be back with a post-mortem on the season. Thank you everybody for downloading, and we'll see you then.